a Friday morning. It's an absolutely gorgeous day in Las Vegas. I hope that if you're in someplace cold that you maybe can just, I wish I could send some of this nice, beautiful air toward you. I have such an honor this morning to speak with this beautiful lady. Jeannie Radzik is the 2020 president of the California Association of Realtors. Jeannie, it's such an honor to have you join me. Thank you.
Thank you for asking me, Connie.
Well, let's just jump, because we have a lot of stuff to cover. By the way, if there's an airplane that goes over the top or a dog that barks, I'm in my she shed outside. So I just apologize up front but you know what? This is just being real and authentic.
Because I'm in my office.
So Jeannie, I'm going to ask you the same thing I ask every single person I talk to. Were you a leader as a child?
I wouldn't say necessarily as a child, because I had a very dominant older sister. But by the time I got into high school, I was the assistant everything. Assistant editor of the yearbook, assistant editor of the newspaper, assistant, Glee club director, whatever. I was the assistant everything, which informed, it took me until my 30s to figure out, well, I can do this because I've already done it.
Wow, that's huge. Well, and that brings to a really good question. So what kind of skills did you learn being the assistant to everything that you are now using today?
I was the worker bee. So you just put your head down, you do the work, and whoever's in charge typically is the representative, but they're not necessarily the one doing it all. And so that's informed the way I do my work.
Well, just before we went live, you shared with me a really adorable picture. And one of the things I talk about in my courses and in my book is happiness versus success. And we have to put smiles on our face as often as we possibly can. And when you showed me this picture, it put a smile on my face, and I don't even know these two. So can you share it with us?
It got to go the right way.
There you go.
Okay.
So how did that end up on your phone, and who are those lovely people?
That's my oldest son and his wife, Scott and Marcia Radzik. And Scott was making a change because we'd had a new router with one of those unbelievable sequences of numbers and letters that you could never remember. So he was going to change it to something that we could all remember. And so he asked if he could use my phone. Well, he's done it before. I have no problem with that. But I got the phone back with this picture of these two on there. And I haven't taken it off because it makes me smile every time my phone lights up. And how can you not smile when you've got these two people who are grown-ups making these funny faces?
Well, I think, anything we can do to put a smile on our face, especially to start the day, is something that, the day is going to go good if you start out with a smile. So you were telling me about an article that CR asked you to write.
Well, the magazine that'll come out, I don't know if it'll be January or February, but they ask the president, there's a president's column, and then they ask the presidents for 5 little things, and it can be absolutely anything. Well, my eyes roll to the back of my head, and I'm thinking, what does anybody want to know? But it turns out that one of the things that I did comment on was that, when you come to a stop sign or stoplight, I don't care, look to the driver to your left or to your right, smile at them. Results will vary because you'll get some that'll give you a thumbs up, they'll smile back. You'll get others that'll frown at you like, who the heck are you and why are you smiling at me? Kind of a deal. But it's an internal thing for me. It makes me smile just to watch their reactions.
Oh, I am definitely giving that a try. Definitely. So how did you go from, what was your beginning? What did you do prior to real estate, and what was your journey like to where you are today?
I'll give you the synopsis version.
Okay.
One of my early jobs, I worked at a Sears store, and I was a flyer. So you went from department to department to relieve people that needed a coffee break or whatever. And then they put me out in the automotive department. So I ran the automotive department. I ordered engine blocks, I ordered transmissions, all that kind of stuff, surrounded totally by men. And of course, they warned me I wouldn't be wearing a dress because this is the automotive center. And I thought, I'm not under the cars. Yeah, watch this. Anyway, so I left there to go be the receptionist for a medical laboratory. And within about 5 years, I was the manager of the medical laboratory. And we had 3 doctors and, a dozen lab technologists and an airplane and 8 satellite labs. And, it was my job to schedule the doctors initially. And then as I managed it, then you do the payroll and you do the bills and all that kind of stuff. So I was there for a number of years until we moved to Bakersfield. So that was an interesting deal. Then when I got into real estate, people said, oh, this is such high pressure. And I thought, you don't have a clue what high pressure is. High pressure is watching somebody doing pap smear reports, knowing that there's a person on the other end of that that's anxious about possibly having cancer or whatever. That's pressure. Now, we internalize in real estate, and yes, it is serious because it's a financial commitment. So I don't want to downplay that, but it's a different type of pressure.
Absolutely.
It's not going to change their lives to the point where they would die from a misdiagnosis.
Wow. So when did you decide you wanted to go into some kind of leadership with the associations? And you were involved with Women's Council as well, right?
I was for a short while. I have not been active in that just because I got my fingers in a lot of things. Yeah, that's an understatement. But I was put on the board of directors after I'd been a realtor for probably 5 years at our local association, and became president way back in 2000 of the local association. So I'm one of those people that just keeps hanging on, can't let it go, because it makes me a better person. It makes me more informed. It makes me a better agent to show up and to listen and to participate, and I inevitably ask the questions, not all the time, but I mean, when someone comes to you and says, we're putting this new subdivision out in XYZ area, and we're going to be a part of this school district, so I raised my hand. This is in a commercial investment meeting. I raised my hand because this guy's city manager. I said, that means those people out there will have a Mello-Roos fee. All the commercial guys are looking at me like, what the heck does that mean? Any of the guys that sell residential totally got it, because those people are going to be paying higher taxes to support the school system. That's the way our Mello-Roos locally is set up. So it's asking that kind of a question. And I honestly had a purpose in doing that, because I wanted these guys to be thinking about that. I wanted them to know that.
I think it's really, really important that we learn how to ask the right questions, because whether or not we're talking about our personal lives and the direction we want to go, or whether it's our career or something we're doing with a friend or a family member, if we know how to ask those right questions, then we become informed. But also we help to, like you did, inform others that this might be something they need to be thinking about without telling them that they need to be thinking about this. So I think asking questions is really, really important. So you, before we went live, you mentioned a little bit about, and I love what you said about having an agenda. So what is your agenda as the 2020 president?
Well, my first answer that I gave you was that I don't want to fail. Absent that, I think that each president that comes into CAR, their biggest agenda is to touch the membership, to help them be informed, to help them further their career, whether it doesn't matter what type of real estate they practice, whether it's commercial or residential income or residential sales, it doesn't matter. It just needs to be as informed as possible. And I think that that's our job, to further the legislative issues, to make sure that we put realtors in the best light possible, no matter what the issue is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of times when there are certain people that sometimes when they go into leadership, it's about their own personal growth rather than the organization they're a leader of. I think I love what you said about furthering the agenda, furthering the legislation, touching the agents, being able to, give a helping hand up. One of the quotes I do all the time is one from John Maxwell, and he says that before you can ask for a hand, you need to touch a heart. And being out there and being able to bring people together by getting to know them, by reaching out to them, I think is really important. And it sounds like you do that just in your normal life.
Try to, actually. My door is always open in the office, and people know they can walk in, they know they can ask, and they're not going to just get the direct answer. They're going to get the reasons, and they're going to get the flowers that go around it so that they have a better picture of what they're doing.
Right. Do you do a vision? Are you clear on where you're heading in your career?
I do not have a vision. I guess I would say that I want to continue to be valued. So, however, I can best fill that, because you don't get a lot of committee appointments when you're a past president, but you can participate. You can continue to go to different associations. I mean, one of the things that we're in the middle of doing right now, it's installation season at the various associations. And we have a lot of associations in California, so I can't possibly do them all. So the rest of the leadership team participates. But I think the most fascinating part is when you go to these, the majority of the folks there don't know who you are. Because they're just coming to be at the party because they come every year or whatever the agenda is, but they don't know you because they're not directors. They don't show up at the state meetings.
Right.
And so it's real interesting to see. You have no idea how many people will come and say, "Can I take a selfie with you?" Well, of course you can. I mean, it's that touch. Suddenly you're a real person, and that you represent the California Association of Realtors. It's fascinating to watch.
Oh, yeah. I've never been in that kind of a position, but I can just imagine how people, first of all, getting to know you, and I have such respect for those very short times we've spent together, but I've always admired how you do bring people together. And so having somebody that doesn't know you at all realize that you are the 2020 president, that you are representing the California Association of Realtors, and what that means. You might actually stir in somebody the possibility of coming into some kind, making a commitment to a committee, or doing something just because you are real and you are authentic. I think that's a key element to being a really great leader.
I continue to try. And when people come up and talk to you, I mean, you need to give them the time to respond. Of course, when you go to some of those things, it's like you hug to your left, hug to your right, do the group hug. It's a little hard to get the personal time, but it's still, they feel like they've met you.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you just didn't want to fail as the 2020 president. We talked a little bit about failure. How do you overcome failure? What do you do to be able to move beyond it?
When something doesn't go the way you expect it to, doesn't matter whether it's a transaction or something in your life. For me personally, it'll gnarl up my stomach for a couple of days. And then you just take a breath and you just keep going, because the world did not fall apart and it did not come cataclysmically down. So you just keep moving. And typically what you've learned from that failure will make a positive impact on something you do in the future.
That's absolutely true. That's I always talk about failure as it's just a course correction, and It's also a crystalline moment. Crystalline means sparkly or clear, so a moment of clarity. And you may not recognize what the gift or the opportunity is that comes out of it, but at some point in time, you will look back and say, "Oh, I see what the benefit is in that, and now I'm going this direction where I may have been going the wrong direction in the first place." So I like that.
Absolutely.
So at the end of 2020, what would you like to have seen happen for yourself?
For myself or for the association?
For the association and yourself.
Okay. In terms of the association, one of the things that has just kind of cropped up in the very immediate past is that report from Long Island on fair housing or lack of fair housing. And we're in our 50th year celebration, or last year was, I guess, of the signing of the Fair Housing Bill. And so it's just kind of stunning. And it made me, when I read through it, it made me take stock and think, oh my gosh, have I been inadvertently saying something that I shouldn't be saying? Or is there some other way that you can provide the information that you need to? I'm not so arrogant to believe that I'm, Polly Pureheart. And it isn't because I don't pay attention, but sometimes you just say things as a matter of habit that you shouldn't. And
Right.
so that really made me take stock. And I actually just recently completed the fair housing course that you need to renew your your license. And again, the questions that they asked and the examples they give were kind of telling. We need the reminder. So I think that will be high on the list this year to have people talk about. What I hope to get out of it personally is, like I said, I don't want to be someone that somebody says, oh my gosh, we finally survived that one, And I don't really mean that gratuitously, because I'm so vested in participating and being somebody that's present in the business. I don't really see that as happening, but that is one of those little fears that hides in the back of your head.
Of course.
And if you don't bring it up to the front, you don't address it. And so I am looking forward to this year. I really am.
Well, I think California Association of Realtors is in really great hands this year. So I'm looking forward to observing from the sidelines and seeing what it is that you're going to be doing. Any last thoughts? Anything you would like to share with the people that are watching this?
The most important thing that you can possibly do is show up. Make sure you're present. Make sure you're visible, because if you're not visible, you are invisible. So be visible, be present in the business, and show up. I don't care if it's for a celebration, when they're having the Christmas party at your local association. I don't care if it's for an educational event. Show up. You will meet someone or learn something that will change your life.
Wow. What a great note to end this conversation on. I so appreciate you coming on, and because I know you're a crazy busy lady, and taking the time to have this conversation. I think it's a really important conversation, and the very, very best of luck to you throughout all of 2020. I'm sure it's going to be an absolutely fabulous year. So really, again, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Connie, I'm grateful for the opportunity. I mean, you and I have been trying to connect for a while, and I really feel like this was very worthwhile. So thank you for asking me.
You're very welcome. Okay, well, I will be putting this part of this interview into my new book called Crystalline Voices, Real Estate Women in Leadership, and this is definitely one of the great ones. So I will be back with another interview. I don't have a date set yet. I think it's going to be sometime next week, but I will let you know. Jeannie, thank you, and we'll see you all later. Bye now.
Thank you, Connie.